Rhetoric is like a hammer, just not as hard. It's like the United States Senate, just a little bit more effective. Rhetoric is like the kid in the grocery store trying to convince his mom to buy him a piece of candy, except you don't go home and tell your family what a bad mother it has. Rhetoric is like the show Friends, except... never mind. Rhetoric is everywhere. Rhetoric is in the schoolhouse, in the White House, in your house. It's like a word sandwich with a slice of speaker, a slice of listener, smothered and objective, except a bit more appetizing. Rhetoric is the art of discourse, an art that attempts to improve the faculties of writers and speakers who attempt to inform, persuade, or motivate particular audiences in specific situations. Or at least that's what Wikipedia says, but because every teacher in every school in the world says Wikipedia is always wrong, can never be used as a source, perhaps we should find another definition. What this definition does have going for it, though, is that it mentions particular audiences and specific locations. Both of these things are very essential to the art of rhetoric. What the definition lacks, though, is the capacity and role of rhetoric, that is, what rhetoric can do and what rhetoric should do. First, we'll talk about the capacity of rhetoric, what it can and cannot do. Contrary to what someone like Longinus might say, rhetoric is not a power, at least not in the sense that a well-crafted sentence can force someone to think or act in a specific way. Rhetoric does exist to persuade, but like the good St. Augustine makes clear, the only person that can persuade a person is himself, and ultimately God. Now, when I first came to terms with this fact, I figured there was no real use for rhetoric and locked her away in the dark precipices of my mind. Until a valiant knight called Deliberation came to rescue her from her dungeon. You heard it right. One of rhetoric's main goals is in deliberation. Rhetoric is good for scenarios where mathematical certainty is not a possibility. What to have for dinner, what sort of car to buy, whether or not to invade a country. Though rhetoric is not good for finding the cure for cancer, telling what color the sky is, or finding the answer to a math problem. Rhetoric deals with the organic, human aspects of our being and interaction, deliberating among others what is the best course of action, not necessarily right or wrong, but perhaps good versus better. Even when rhetoric is one-sided, like in a book or a speech, there's still deliberation going on. The audience, the reader, will listen to the speech or read the book and deliberate for himself whether or not the information is useful and worth applying or not. Now that we have a basic idea of what rhetoric is, what it can do, and what it should do, let us go into how it is done, or perhaps in true rhetorical style, how it is done best. Aristotle notoriously divided rhetoric into three aspects: pathos, ethos, and logos. Pathos is an appeal to emotions, an attempt to motivate, but not just getting your audience to be sad or angry, but to bring them into your speech by using vivid language, appealing to the senses, and even using comedy. Ethos is the writer or speaker's credibility, how he establishes why he should be taken seriously. Logos is the logic of an argument. Generally, the objective, or what the speaker wishes to convince his audience of, is made clear through the logos. Using these three aspects of rhetoric, pathos, ethos, and logos, and of course taking into account your specific situation and your specific audience, you should be able to effectively persuade whoever you're trying to persuade. Remember though, rhetoric is a very organic art, and you can never say with scientific certainty whether or not you'll be able to persuade somebody. Of course, an effective rhetoric is a studied one, and luckily for us, there are many people who wrote books on how to do it right. Among some of them are Wordsmithy, Word Hero, Office of Assertion, my personal favorite, You're Stupid, Longinus, Demetrius, Plato wrote in the Gorgias and Phaedrus, and Aristotle wrote, of course, Rhetoric. Also, we can look to the scriptures for ways to effectively persuade. Now you may say, the scriptures are not, nor should they be, a handbook on rhetoric, but what they do is model effective rhetorical techniques by looking at the situation and who they're trying to persuade and effectively persuade their audience. Rhetoric itself comes in many forms: written, spoken, even videos. What is written in this book, the Bible, could also be written in this comic book, for instance, or recorded on a DVD in a movie. Of course, each of these forms has their own specific strengths and weaknesses. So as you're embarking on your own rhetorical journey, remember, while words can only do so much, words can do so much. They can be your best friend or your worst enemy's worst enemy. So give it a try. Whether you're writing a book or a Facebook post or even just talking to someone on the street, be mindful of how you can use rhetoric to more effectively persuade people. And also be mindful that every single day rhetoric is being used towards you. So be able to discern it and understand which is good and which may be deceitful.